Okay, we're now recording. Welcome everyone. My name is Lok. This is the bi-weekly VMware Cluster API meetup meeting. This is where we discuss the Cluster API provider for vSphere. So I hope that you guys got I'm going to go ahead and put a link to the meeting notes inside of the chat. Let me see where's chat. So if everyone can just write down their name for the attendee, and then we'll start. Today I don't have any really any agenda today. I can give you guys some updates, but as in terms of topics that we can discuss, I don't really have very many. If anybody wants to put anything in under the agenda, please go ahead. Okay. So, let me give you guys an update on where we are with the Cluster API for vSphere right now. So the last week we've been working on the Go vMAMI conversion. Currently the Cluster API provider for vSphere is written in Terraform, and we nearly have the conversion done. I thought that we might have a PR last week, but we didn't. So I'm hoping that we'll have a PR this week. In addition to that, I've been working on a series of Markdown design pages that will go into the project's repo. We're going to get some more people working on this project very soon, and I need to. The goal of the documentation is to help people ramp up very quickly. Everything from how to use the Cluster API to how it works. In fact, it looks like Siddharth is on. Siddharth, I was just mentioning that we might have the Go vMAMI conversion. If you want to spend any time talking about that, this is your chance.
Sure. I mean, I can talk about what the current status with the PR is. You guys can hear me properly, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, so Locke and I have been kind of working our way together to get the Go vMAMI implementation a head start, and I've been working on my own pull request, wherein I have tried to come up with the Go vMAMI implementation that, to begin with at least, will be at par with what Terraform does today. So the way I'm looking at it is like get that parity first with Terraform, and then once we have that, then go try and add additional things as we need to do more. The current status for that PR at the moment is I was able to for most part, I was able to do the create, delete part completely at parity with what the Terraform does today. I'm still I haven't done anything on the update part yet. I mean, I need to look at what the Terraform is doing for update, and if there's anything specific that is happening there, I need to, again, try and implement that on the update part as well.
How about exist? Exist should work too, right?
I think Terraform, if I remember correctly, in the Terraform side of implementation for the update, we just call the some common method just to say Terraform run again. So I don't think it's doing anything specific, but I just need to, I haven't filled out the placeholder for the update in my actuator for the Go vMAMI based implementation of actuator yet. So that's why I've kind of left it out. So it might be just, call exactly the same code as what the create does, but yeah.
Okay. There's two issues that I would like to invite people to help out if they have some time. So why don't I share the issue board? Okay, can you guys see this? Let me go to the issue board. So one issue we might have somebody potentially providing some work on, and the other one we could use some help if anybody wants to join. By the way, this issue board, if anybody wants to work on any of this, please feel free to work on something and then present a PR if you want to. But there's two things that I think right now that could potentially be a very simple thing to add, and could be something that would be a good introduction to the cluster API if anybody wants to help out with. And it's these two issues right here. So the first is move all YAML and startup scripts out of the code or allow overrides. So what I mean by this is that there are a couple of places in the cluster API where you input YAML objects. You do this at the cluster control CLI, but there's also YAML and scripts defined inside the code itself. There's some defined in the vSphere provider plugin, not plugin, but provider. And there's some there's a YAML definition declared in code inside the main cluster API project. And you know, what we think that should happen is that, you know, I think those current defines are fine if we want to make them as defaults. But, you know, I think that eventually we want to move them outside of the code so that we can, like, perhaps pass the YAML and the scripts into the cluster control API, CLI, and then have the CLI give that over to the cluster API components. And if anybody wants to work on that, I think that is something that would give people's familiarity with the both the main repo and also the vSphere project. The second issue that I think it would be a great help for us, and it's something that would allow somebody new to the project to start looking at the code, both the main repo and the vSphere provider. And that is the ability to add logs to a remote log server. So why this is important is that right now, debugging the cluster API stack is very time consuming. Every time we had to make code to, like I mentioned before, that there's a bunch of YAML files and YAML definition scripts that are being passed anywhere. And if you make any changes to either the main repo or the vSphere provider repo, you had to run through a bunch of hoops to get the containers built, then upload it, and then you have to be aware of how you actually run through the workflow. And sometimes you forget something, and you know, part of the you know, cluster API workflow is that it creates temporary clusters and then does its thing and then deletes the temporary cluster. And sometimes when that happens, you lose the logs, or you finish a run and you forget, and then the logs are gone. If we had the ability to upload the logs to a remote log server, that would significantly speed up development productivity. This is something that we've always wanted on the previous project I worked on, which was the vSphere integrated containers. And towards the end, we added the ability to stand up a log insight server, and all logs went to that server, and then you can actually trace the operations between the different components. So this, I don't think this would be very complex. This, most of this work would be trying to get glog, the glog APIs to be able to, and I don't know, maybe this is already built into the API, but to get that API to then also log to a remote server, or you know, I'm not sure what else. There are many ways we can tackle this problem, but anybody who wants to work on this would be of great help. I think I have somebody who might be interested in working on this, but I've been told that there's no guarantee yet, so we'll see. Okay, so other than that, I don't have anything else. Does anybody have any other topics they want to discuss today? Okay, if not, then I guess this concludes the meeting early today. I'll give you guys back your time. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.